This evening, we sit down to speak to one of my mentors, Carl Livingston, pastor, professor, social activist, and author, and about how these things have equipped him to help others as they face the challenges of 2020, especially in our political environment and when it comes to social and racial injustice in our communities. We hope you enjoy this conversation.
Hi guys, my name is Elodie.
And I'm Jeremy. And this is our guest tonight, Carl Livingston.
Let's talk.
My skin is gold. My skin is gold. My skin is gold.
So, Carl, thank you again for being here with us. Like Jeremy said, he's known you for years. Yeah. I just, met you. So if you could tell us maybe a little bit about yourself so that we can get to know you a little bit more.
Well, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh.
And T-Town. Please don't say anything about the smell, please. And, got a lot of love for the place. I got saved when I was 13 years old. It radically transformed my life. Mm-hmm. I've gone to Oral Roberts University because after a whole bunch of public schools, I wanted that Christian experience, and that helped me kind of with some of my vision and drive. Notre Dame Law School grad in 1987, and I came back here in 87, and I've been back here ever since. Mm-hmm. And I really feel committed to making a difference in this community.
Yeah, bringing it back home.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff,
87, that's like when you were born.
Yeah, guys.
Easy.
You
were born like in 92 or
No, I wasn't, guys.
Okay. All right.
Won't tell you when, but it was not 92.
Yeah.
You graduated when she was born. It's all right.
I don't want to talk about it.
The man does not want to talk about it.
Right.
It's sad.
2020 has been a tumultuous year for all of us, right? It's been a tumultuous year in our country and right here in our community. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts with that background on, being in one of the most contentious election seasons in our current history, probably in modern history since Nixon, right? I mean, it's extremely divisive. What is your thoughts on how do you feel about that, and what has been going on in your life, and how has it been impacted by this time?
I feel like this has been one of those years that just is pregnant with so much destiny, then the Black Lives Matter stuff, and the election, and so many other little things in between, the people that we've lost this year, the deaths. And so, this has been one of those really, really impactful years. And I have spoken to people about the importance of a whole bunch of things. For instance, trying to support those on the streets, because even though some of them are farther left than I am not an anarchist. I'm not someone that wants revolution, but I sure like them standing up for justice, because ours is a God of justice. I've spoken to people about the importance of just keeping a level head in the midst of all this change. And there's a stress that comes with tumultuous times, and we have to just survive these times.
So with that, how's it impacting you? How are you feeling about things? How's that? You brought up several subjects, the coronavirus, Black Lives Matter,
protesting and stuff like that.
How are you feeling about? How's it affecting you as a person?
Well, personally, man, I'm telling you, this year has been quite a roller coaster. First, it was a matter of just learning how to slow down and pretty much quarantine myself. That all by itself was crazy.
It was.
And I kind of got into both my classes, the Word of God, and watches as really common and crazy as it might say, because I had to focus myself. Then it became a thing of just tears in my eyes as I saw George Floyd and those.
Right.
I mean, it had a flashback to Tamir Rice, and that's always the one that hurts me the most. And but I was hurt by George Floyd, and
why does Tamir Rice? Why does that hurt you?
Because he was 12 years old and he was shot within seconds of the car rolling up in the park, and because he was 12, and I remember being a kid playing with guns.
Toy guns, water guns.
And I love children of all ethnicities, all types, and I feel like we need to keep children protected and out of our issues.
Yeah.
And to see that child dead like that, it's just one I can't think about it too much, because that's the one I can't. I just can't get over that one, because he was 12 years old. You know, it's been that, but I'm going to tell you something. I've seen so many people, so many whites, so many young people standing up out there in the cold. African American, so many black women and others, Latinos, Native American, men too, white men, protesting for justice. And that has reaffirmed my belief and love of humanity.
Yeah.
And I've seen police changing. I've seen mayors changing. So the change may not be happening as fast as people want,
yeah.
but
Sure. It's
institutions are changing.
Yeah.
And so we got to recognize that this has been a year of some progress. So yeah, I had tears in my eyes over that, and then I had tears all over seeing people singing together, doing the electric slide together. And then came this election.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something. The most dangerous man in the world is Vladimir Putin, as far as I am concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
And I am concerned over the influence that he has in our country.
Yep.
I am not only concerned about this election and a tend towards authoritarianism and tyranny and stuff, but I am concerned about the puppet master behind him.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I am very concerned about what I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So could you
Appreciate
share a little bit about, Saturday, and when, the call was finally made that Joe Biden was going to be our president?
I mean, I was so happy. I was just so many calls from church members, family members. I made calls to and sent texts out. I was so relieved. I recognize that we have many brothers and sisters who support Trump and the conservatives. We love them. I love them too. But the reason why I've been so excited about supporting the Democrats is because I finally see now what James calls the royal, Apostle James in the book of James calls the royal command. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about that, what has made you pull towards the Democrat? You grew up conservative.
Because I used to think when I came out of Oral Roberts University that it was all about righteousness, and it was all about loving God. So I called it making sure I was right, not in adultery against God, and not in immorality. And it was a narrow definition of immorality. And that's why I voted for Reagan in '84. That's why I was this big Francis Schaeffer, anti-secularism, secular humanism, and all of that. And then I came home. I saw how those programs were hurting the community, and I was confused. They were making me into somebody that would be on the future Fox News. I knew James Watt, Reagan's Secretary of the Interior. They were grooming me, and I couldn't do it. I came home and saw how those policies were hurting people. I got back in the scriptures, and then I learned love and the promotion of love. And I realized in my theology, I didn't have the right place for it. It didn't have, it was idolatry, immorality, stayed for them too, and I was done. And God said, no, the third leg is insensitivity to the poor or insensitivity to the vulnerable.
Yeah, any marginalized people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's right up there
Yeah.
because Jesus promoted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my theology kind of changed, and I realized it ain't about just me and my house and my relationship with God. It ain't about my personal peace and prosperity. It's about those things and the community.
And since George Floyd, there's been a lot that has happened in this country that really is one of the catalysts leading to the election of Joe Biden. I mean, how has that impacted you? I mean, you've been around a long time, and you grew up in Tacoma, so you've seen a lot of these issues of
Then the gray hair, I'm old.
police and other authorities killing unarmed black men and black women in the streets, right?
Yes.
How are you dealing with that, both as a pastor and in your capacity as a professor of political science? How are you dealing with that, engaging that with your church and with your students?
Yeah. Well, we are talking about it both in the church, in Kingdom Christian Center, where I pastor, and up at Seattle Central. I mean, we're just dealing with it head on. And we have to, because the young people are bringing the issue to the streets. They're bringing it to the classroom, whether we bring it up or not.
Yeah.
They're bringing it up online. And they're also asking people, where are you? Where you at, church?
Right.
Yes.
Where the pastors at?
Yeah.
And even though I have done
talk
some
about
things,
that.
they're
Yeah.
still in my face going, hey, we don't see you out there. We're out here every day. You know, where are you at? And I have to, in some ways, go, you know, y'all are doing better than me, but I am committed to this. It means really having to face, talking about it, to keep pushing, because we are making progress. And it's like we got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Now that we got some progress made,
traction.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean? We do have to make sure we don't go too far in this. I don't think the answer is taking all the money away from the police. So I'm careful about phrases like defund the police.
So your idea of defund the police might be different. One of the questions I have on this, and Ellie, maybe you want to jump in on this, is when that saying went up, I was a little like, whoa, defund the police. I mean, what does that mean? I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means. But when we watch social programs being shut down, educational programs being shut down, mental health programs being shut down, job creation programs for educating people being shut down, and moving that money to militarize the police.
Right. Right.
There's something intrinsically wrong with that in our
something
cities.
going on that needs to. Yeah.
And even police would tell you they're asking too much of us at when the stop occurs.
Right.
I mean, we're responding to people that really are homeless and are having a medical crisis, and we're on the scene. We're responding to people having a domestic situation. They really need counseling, and it's our most dangerous stop.
Yeah.
Or the person that we're arresting that is involved in a crime, it has a drug problem, has an alcohol, has a psychological problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need more resources specific to that thing. And that's what the general phrase defund the police is about, making sure that we bring the right resources to a specific
situation. Yeah. Not
so
just,
that we fix the problem. And even that to me sounds not only good, but it sounds Christian, because I mean we have to help people in the way that they need.
What you said, it is that it's let's take this money and put it here to help specific issues, and let's take this money and stuff rather than call 911 for anything and the
Show up
police
with a
comes
gun.
up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's really about love again.
Yeah.
So then I kind of want to talk about another hot topic, you can say, the term or even the movement Black Lives Matter. That is, people have a very strong opinion or feeling
One
about
way or
that.
the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. And so I kind of want to ask you, like, what does Black Lives Matter movement, like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. Well, for the most part, I'm so proud of the Black Lives Matter movement. You see,
Amen.
we don't get a chance to pick the movements that rise. In the 60s, the older generation didn't get a chance to pick either the Black Panthers or Malcolm X or even Martin Luther King. And so that's how I approach Black Lives Matter, as a movement that I didn't pick, but that has organically arisen, and that I need to come to them, and coming close to them, I see the good in the movement. And so I'm helping them. Now, the conservatives who don't want to change, they're trying to set them up as a terrorist movement.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I have to interpose myself. I have to stand against that and speak on their behalf to protect them.
I like how you said that movements come up at a time. Right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
amazing that, to me, that movement was started by 3 Black women.
Yeah.
And
We don't talk about that a
And
lot,
to
yeah.
see not
Right.
only that movement, but to see in this election, as
Yeah.
you had talked about,
Yeah.
it was the black women, 90%, 91% turned out for Biden.
Right.
Yeah.
Carried the day.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now we have the first African American, Asian American vice president in history. I mean, that's
Yep,
just,
yep.
and a woman, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter, and as much
Yeah.
as people can be on one side of that or the other, I agree. People need to move close
Yeah.
to that, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate the conversation around Black Lives Matter. I agree. LAD agrees, I'm sure, that we need to really protect that movement. And
Yep.
I appreciate how you said that movements raise up at a certain time. And it's not for us to pick and choose, but sometimes it's for us to get on board.
Yep.
You know, and with that comes the other side of it, where I think there is a lot of fear of, what really needs to happen, especially being in a country that's majority white, and from the white perspective, to really address systemic racism in this country. What do we need to do to really make gains in those areas?
You become a great leader if you embrace all of it. Say, hey, I didn't create it, I didn't start it. But I'm in a leadership, I'm the majority. I'm the leader. I'm going to rise to this moment and make the company better. Well, the United States of America can be likened to a company that has had some things happen that weren't good in the midst of many things that were good. And as whites rise to this moment to seize the opportunity to make the country as good as it is, great. It just shows true leadership. It shows true, really mastering the moment. And we ain't going to be here forever.
Right.
What are we going to do in
Yeah.
our time to make this place
Yeah.
better, to make it better for the little kids? It's going to require, we got to be kind of thick-skinned. We'll say, hey, let's talk about prejudice, not just racism. So if it's racism, we're only focusing on whites. If
Yeah.
it's prejudice, we focus it on everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
So I'll be
Yeah.
there to say that, but there'll be a lot of people there to say, Livingston, quit giving them a pass. And
I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking that too.
And what I'm saying is,
What were
we
you-
can do
what-
this. We
what
can
were you
rise to
thinking
this
of?
moment.
I was
What were you
when you said there have been some bad in the midst of some good. I'm like, what are the good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could
And-
say it if you want me to.
Yeah, let's hear it. What are some good? I want to know, because I think for me, I get that. It's not white people that are living now did not create the problem, and that's fair.
Yep.
But they also benefit from
Yeah.
those, problems.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I'm not wanting them to take the blame, but hey, acknowledge that you do benefit from it.
Take some leadership, some responsibility.
Yeah. So my
yeah.
question for you is, I want to know, what are some of the good that you had mentioned?
Well, the good would be, I readily concede racism, sexism, and elitism is bad things, but the country wasn't only that. The country has been a democratic experience, the likes of which the world had never seen before. And that part was good. The Constitution, written as something in its preamble especially, that it was calling all of us, mainly whites, up to, that was good. The slavery was bad, but those rights were good.
For white people.
For whites, right. And just a small sliver of some folks who could pass. and that.
3/5.
And so, but what I'm saying is, it's important that we not make it all bad.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of deal.
Right. There's a reason why people are trying to get over here. I mean, people are making a voluntary decision. I want to get over here because my life will be better. And that's them. We're not making them come over here. They want to come over here because of the things that are in place, the opportunities available so that people can get in. I'm talking about black people, and I'm talking about Indians and native people from South America and Central America, first peoples and stuff, and trying to get over, and all kind of folks trying to get over here, because much of what was done was good as well. And the country has been changing. It's been growing into its ideals. pushing the system has made it better, but at least we have a system in which the opportunity to vote is there because it was there for white men. And so as we made it more open, we made it something available to all people. And when we were doing that around 1920, there were still monarchies around in the world. There were still governments promising democracy, but not really giving it, like in Mexico. So our country could be this example, pushing the rest of the world to be a better place for their citizens, and not just for the portion of the world that's in the United States of America.
I do appreciate you saying that, because I'm like, oh yeah, no, I am constantly thanking God for the opportunities that I have here. Yes, there's racism. Yes, there are things that I have to deal with on a everyday basis because I am a Black woman. But my life is there's so much more opportunities for me here than there would be in the Ivory Coast.
Yep. And what I'm saying is that this is an opportunity that you have to make a little dent in this country.
Yeah.
And to help shape the world through your social media. There's so much more you can do than you would be able to do if you were the average person in China at this time, or the average person in Uruguay.
Yeah. So you had mentioned earlier that you are a pastor and you are a professor, and during this time of COVID and social unrest and stuff, that both your students and maybe your fellow members have asked, where is the church? What can we do? And so I want to know, can you talk a little bit about the Christian church historically, what their role has played in racism in America, and how do we move through that today?
Well, yeah, it's a tough thing when students or church members are asking, where are you? What are you doing about it? Especially for somebody like me, because I'm like, I don't want to be talking one thing and then walking another thing. I just can't. I don't like. I always need to be able to look myself in the mirror and know I'm doing the best I can to be integral, to be a real, to not lie to myself and not be a hypocrite. Too often those in the church have not taken a leadership position. Sometimes what happens is we get into a cushy kind of a rhythm where we're good at teaching, we can make our 3 points in a poem, we got a congregation we feel pretty good about.
Become comfortable.
Yeah, and we can experience our lives as pretty successful because we're doing okay, and yet the world all around us
is crumbling.
It could be falling apart, or it could just be doing. It could just be whatever, and it's doing. It is what it is without our salt and our light. We've been AWOL. We've been missing to a great degree, and we've been like judging ourselves and our performance when we should just go 3 or 4 blocks down the road and just ask somebody, "You think I'm doing enough?" And get a real answer we may not be ready to hear.
Yes.
Because the real raw folk are going to tell you, "I really don't think you're even."
Or who
relevant.
are you?
So why is that in the major historical problems we see, not only in this country, but in the world? In this country, for sure, for 400 years, the church sits on the sidelines and is often is co-opted into the ruthlessness of government instead of seeking justice as God calls us to seek.
Yeah. Too often it's that, especially with the leaders. Why? Because I think we get comfortable and we don't even feel we got enough time left to do something in the community or whatever. When we do, but here's the interesting thing. The church is still there.
Yeah.
But it may not be one of the leaders that you've seen.
Now, I know in the Black church recently, with all the Black Lives Matter movement, the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and many others, a lot of pastors, I've seen them present, specifically Black church leaders. But God still calls us to seek justice. I mean, God is a God of don't be right, seek righteousness.
Wow.
What are you doing to seek justice for all, right? Yeah. And I think as a church, we have to have a presence. Otherwise, eventually, we have no impact. I've often, this might be a bad parallel, but I've talked about what happened in Europe. After World War II, Christianity basically died.
Wow.
I mean, what the Nazi movement did in Europe just
Yeah.
crushed faith for many people because the church stood by.
Yeah.
And the church were co-opted oftentimes with, well, maybe the outcome will be okay. And they didn't seek the justice. So as a pastor, I mean, what do we need to do as a church? And I get what you're saying. The church is there because people are there. We're there, right? But what do we need to do to say, look, this has got to change. And we need to bring that change about.
But no, what I'm saying is I want to get together with the folks that are the bravest and the most courageous. And I'll tell them, we're
top
going
of the hill.
up
Yeah.
where the mayor is and the governor and where some folks are there that mean us bad, that like it like this and will fight to keep it like that. We're going up there and we're going to go fix it. We're going to structurally change the system and we're going to make them come up with a plan that won't produce this effect downstream.
At some point, we have a choice as Christians, right? Either secularism and those outside of the church are going to lead the way, which on a lot of the issues this
Is
year
what's been
is the
happening.
case.
Yeah.
And then the Christian voice becomes muted. So the church tries to follow, but it's already lost because it's following
Too late.
instead of leading. And to get in front of it,
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but it's like if we don't show up and we're not in front of it, then we're just a me too. We're just tagging along. We're just coming with the flow instead of, hey, we're going to go create.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we can't follow because when we do that, we really kind of already failed from the beginning because
give up your power.
But in addition to that, we got to believe what it is we teach and we say. I'm looking for some athletes. I'm looking for some folks that raised the kid they said
Sure-footed.
couldn't be raised. I'm looking for some folks that have done some out-of-the-box thinking things. And we're going after it. That's the attitude I think Jesus had about everything that concerned his purpose. You can stand in the way all you want. You can try to throw me off this cliff early. You can send somebody that's been chained up and crazy out there who's trying to come after me. It doesn't matter. Until I get to the cross, you can't stop me.
You know, just kind of maybe concluding this point from my from where I sit, I think that's right. I think this church, we have to take a role because I think that sometimes God will say, "Fine, let the world lead," and then we end up in Babylon. We end up somewhere else. He says, "You want to take a back seat, watch the world burn. That's fine. Then it's going to burn," and That's one of my concerns. So I appreciate that. I think as Christians and as a church, the body that we have to represent. All right. So just as we kind of wrap all of this up, you know, we've talked about your life as an activist, your life as a professor, and pastoring in the church, and how things have gone on this year in our world today are impacting you, and a lot of things that we need to be doing. One of the questions that we want to conclude with here is, from your perspective as a pastor and all the other roles that you hold as a father and a mentor to a lot of people, what do you think real reconciliation looks like for us in the church and in our communities? What do we need to do to really come to a point of reconciliation?
Well, it looks like to me what Paul taught in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and what Jesus talked about in the real Lord's Prayer when he talked about being one. Whoever's victimized, promote them to handling the area that they were victimized in is the Christian example. Promote them, people like them, to fix it. Were they discriminated against in criminal justice? Are Christians around? Promote them and make them the police. Promote them, make them the judges. If Christians are around in the church, there's a problem with how we're handling the singing. Promote them, let them do the singing, and let them make some decisions. That is the Christian Acts example when it first started.
So when it comes to race relations, as I would understand that, is, you know, hey, if we have divides in the church and we have issues of racism, raise up those people that have been subjected to those things, right?
You are.
Raise up the black community, raise up the marginalized communities to deal with these issues, and let them bring the reconciliation. Follow their lead.
You are 100% on it. And that's the Christian example that we have not faced, and it will radically transform things. It's another salty, light-filled thing that we have. They're never going to get it right unless we are there in the streets bringing those ideas. In the church, living it first.
Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think you lost me. I'm not gonna lie. I was following you until you lost me at. I guess I'm just trying to figure out. Okay, like how does that look today and in our church? If we're promoting, the marginalized and stuff, what is a role for?
So here
our white
here's
Christians?
where okay. So here's how I see it playing out. Let's say at this church there are a group of Latinas and Latinos who say, we really don't feel we're heard. We really don't feel we're respected here. And we feel like we don't have much of a role, that you don't care about us that much. You don't really want to know us. And they go, you know what? This is something that we're supposed to handle in our fellowship area or in our new believer area. Why don't we do this next year? Let's just pick some Latinas and some Latinos to lead the whole ministry. Are you going to fix that problem?
Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. So for me, reconciliation in our communities and in the church, one is let all people, we talked about equity in the past. Make things equitable. If somebody needs a higher stool than someone else to look over that fence and give it to them.
Yeah.
Give them what they need to feel that, hey, I'm not just equal having the same thing, but I have an equitable chance at something. And then the other is people like me, or what we see in a lot of churches in Seattle with white leadership, standing up and then standing out and saying, hey, I'm not a person that suffers from white guilt. I just don't. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But I am a person that says, I cannot allow, as a person of faith, the things that have happened in the past continue to tomorrow. And I think those two things coming together, not just giving people a place at the table, but saying, hey, there's many seats at the table. Take a seat. And, and then others saying, look, we got to go fight for the justice that has not been given.
Yeah, it comes back down to love, and love is going to save us.
It is. I agree with that. I also believe that Jesus, I don't believe it, he said it, carry your cross. Right? He said, hey, there are plenty of crosses for you to climb on. Get on yours with me. Right? And I think at some point, as Christians, we got to get on the cross together to bring about reconciliation.
Yeah.
And if we're not willing to do that,
then
how does reconciliation happen?
Yeah, how does it happen?
Right? His command is, get up on the cross with me.
I think, I think that's where I was lost when you were talking about, giving, if someone of a marginalized group comes to you, you as in a white leader, and you just okay, well, next year let's have
not you, but you.
Not you. Him, you, not you.
Well, when I was white.
Yeah. And so I think that's where I was like, okay, well, then what happens to them? Do they just kind of sit by and stuff? But I like what you said of we're all called to carry our cross and called to carry that weight.
I know you pastor a black church, mostly. And I know some of them brothers and sisters in there going, come on now, Carl. Come on, preacher.
Right.
Because I've met some of them we got to go do something
about
this.
They'll interrupt you during the sermon.
We got to do something about this.
I got family members. Yeah.
But
I'm trying to shepherd a lot of folks who are not impressed with what I'm doing.
Oh, you're doing a lot of good.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not knock what you're doing. You're doing a lot of good.
No, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and thank you for sharing. And I just feel like this whole time I just was sitting, just taking everything in. And I'm so encouraged by even what you said about the church, and that sometimes the work doesn't come from the pulpit. Sometimes it doesn't come from the person who's well dressed, who has a title, but it could come from someone who's just sitting in the back. And I think for me, that was really encouraging, because I feel like this project was my little thing that I could do, you know, and my little thing that I just felt like, man, like we need to have these conversations and they're not being had. So Jeremy, what do you think? Let's do it. And so I just, to know that, yes, like this is how it starts, and like this is it's the little things.
It's a little engine that can.
Choo choo. And so I just really appreciate you coming on, and I just feel like I just was sitting at your feet, just listening.
Wow,
so I'm really appreciative.
I appreciate you being here and taking your time with us tonight. I know you're busy.
Yeah.
And
You're welcome.
it's good to have you.
Yeah.
Welcome. It's fun.
And thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
you.
everybody, for your time. Hopefully you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
My skin is gold. My skin is gold. My skin is gold. And when I look in that mirror, I don't care what I'm told. No, my brothers and my sisters were gold.